Forsaken, abandoned to the dark, what choice but to follow the flame? The fire to tear down the old ways, burning away all fear, doubt, and weakness. Nothing remains but power and ambition. This roaring fire will always demand more. More fuel. More sacrifice. The fiercest heat to forge the hardest steel. Destiny, rising from within the crucible. To seize the world with this fire is to see it burn first.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! The moment you have all been waiting for, the ballet of bull centaurs, the dance of the death rockets, the leaping of the Lamassu. The time has come to get jiggy with the ziggy rods. The Chaos Dwarfs are upon us. The Uzkul Drazhoath have arrived with all their Assyrian, Babylonian, and ancient Mesopotamian nobility, with just a sprinkle of fire and blood, and a whole lot of bulls. Almost exactly 1 month from now, Update 3.0 will hit Warhammer 3 on April 13th, and the Forge of the Chaos Dwarfs DLC will officially go live. Long have we waited. The final missing piece, the final missing race playable in Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th Edition, finally made flesh, and a promise fulfilled. If you recall, almost 7 years ago, the devs at Creative Assembly stated their intent to include every single major race by the time this project was complete. The Dawi Czar were that final piece of track, and the Iron Demon hype train has just pulled into station. So today, we will do what we have always done when a big announcement like this makes landfall. We're going to analyze the trailer, share as much information about the race, units and lords included as we can, talk specifically about the glaring omissions and what they mean for the race, and generally have a fun time breaking it all down. So, if you'd like to support the channel, I will have an official Sega partner link where I will earn commission through every sale. The website's name is Exala, and it is quite literally the official avenue for Sega partners. But as always, I do recommend doing your research first. There is no rush here, and there will of course be tons of gameplay to watch before release to help you make up your mind if you want to wait. But let's face it, a lot of you guys are going to buy it no matter what. So let's jump into the content. Included in this DLC are 3 ferocious and foul legendary lords: Astragoth Ironhand, High Priest of Hashut, Drazhoath the Ashen, Sorcerer Prophet of Hashut and exile from Zarnagrund, and Zhatan the Black, Commander of the Tower of Czar. You'll be joined by legendary Hobgoblin hero Gorduz Backstabber, somewhat obscure assassin character from all the way back in 4th edition, who will bring some juicy buffs for the Wolf Riders of the Steppes, and presumably to Hobgoblin infantry as well. Together, their campaign story arc will revolve around the construction of the Great Drill of Hashut, which they will use to tunnel through the fabric of reality itself, to conquer both the known world and beyond. Perhaps an interesting little segue into Age of Sigmar for the Demon Smiths of Zarnagrund, who don't have a battle tome in that setting quite yet, but I believe that is on its way. We'll talk more about the story arc and those elements a little bit later on, perhaps in another video. We don't have much detail on that front yet. So, we do have confirmation that there will indeed only be 3 lords this time around. I have a lot to say about that, We'll discuss that further in a few minutes because it feels weird to talk about what we're not getting before we talk about, what we are getting. So hold tight on that front. But I will say the trailer itself was amazing. Love the narration. Feel like there's some extra gravitas that comes with British voiceovers. I don't know what it is. But it confirmed a bunch of units from Legion of Asgore range, first seen in Tamarkan, Throne of Chaos. Few surprises in there, and a bomb-ass reference. Some of you might have caught it, but this is not the first time we've seen major movies referenced in a Warhammer trailer before. From Immortan Grom and his Mad Max Warboys, Eltharion's Batman Cave and the Gobbo Joker laugh, Rattling Gunners from Predator, going all Arnold in the jungle, Jurassic Park Dreadsorian Jeep chases, list goes on and on. But this time around, the spice must flow. We are the Infernal Guard, the Sorcerer Prophet's blades. Those who stand against us fall. Gorgeous little Sardaukar reference there from Dune, and what a shot it is of Drazhoath the Ashen, commander of the Legion of Asgore. He is the Fell Sorcerer in charge of the Infernal Guard, the Chaos Dwarf equivalent of Slayers who prioritize discipline, heavy armor, and are welded inside scalding hot mass as punishment for their transgressions. But unlike Slayers, they can throw off the yokes of failure and atone for their misdeeds by performing admirably in battle and rejoining society once their service is complete. Only when they do, they're missing most of their face, and they also wield fire glaives, a repeating handgun that doubles as a halberd in melee. AP and bonus large on armor-piercing, armored ranged infantry, pretty bonkers, and this will be the front line of many a Dawizar army. Infernal Castellan is surveying the troops, will likely play a similar role to the Dwarf Engineer with his rifle, at least from a battlefield perspective, but more focused on supporting infantry than on buffing artillery or range troops. And Drazhoath himself will be a pure Lore of Hashut caster, riding the Baal Taurus Cinder Breath, a flaming bowl that can immolate hordes of foot troops in a wide AoE and breathe fire into their ranks from above. He'll have his own unique start position in the south of the Darklands, at the Black Fortress, north of the Scalded Delta, and the toxic sludge flowing down the River Ruin into the Sea of Dread. The other incredible shot is of Astragoth Ironhand, the High Priest of Hashut, awakening the beast that is the Kadai Destroyer, the centerpiece monster of this DLC. Contrary to popular belief, this is not actually the first time we are seeing what they look like. There was an unfinished Forge World model being worked around the same time Tamarkan came out, about a decade or so ago, but it never saw an official release, and as you can see, very similar design and overall aesthetic. Cannot wait to see that Titan take to the battlefield. That is a dope model. Now, Astragoth Ironhand is essentially the de facto ruler of the Chaos Dwarf Empire. He is the High Priest of Hashut, wields the most influence amongst the Conclave of Sorcerers, and at the peak of his power was arguably the strongest Sorcerer Prophet in the history of their race. Unfortunately, he's old as the hills now, his power is waning a little bit, and all Demon Smiths and Sorcerer Prophets pay a terrible price for that power, which is that the more they forge, cast spells, and gather lore from their father in darkness, Hashut, the Bull God, the more their limbs begin to petrify. That's why he's walking around in his very own Nemesis Dread Knight, a combat walker that gives him mobility and more kick in melee than you'd expect from a haggard old nerd. The really important schism that sets up the whole interfactional rivalry here is that hundreds of years ago, Astrogoth and Drazhoath had a falling out when Dreezy was but a minor demon smith. Power struggles of the capital and the Conclave of Sorcerers can be quite brutal, and Drazhoath was banished and exiled to the Black Fortress, losing much of his support and influence in the capital, but of course later gaining a power base through which he could forge his own identity and legion, and now, hundreds of years later, he's quite a big deal, could potentially rival the capital with a little bit of finicking here or there. And it's interesting because although the Chaos Dwarfs are bloodthirsty slavers and genocidal maniacs, loyalty, honor, tradition, a lot of those original dwarf elements still carry over, and in many ways, they are still very much a united race. But that politicking, while it rarely explodes into outright civil war, will play a major factor in Chaos Dwarf campaigns with the Tower of Czar. This mechanic is a political battleground, granting a wide array of seats and benefits in each district of Zarnagrund, allowing you to target specific economic, infrastructure, or military buffs that will kickstart your faction into high gear. It's being called one of the most in-depth, unique, and versatile campaign mechanics in Total War Warhammer history, so we'll look to dive further into that claim and try to verify its boldness, because that is a bold claim once more info becomes available. As expected, raw materials and forest greenskins labor are going to play a major role here as well. Their entire empire is based off subjugation and the flow of raw materials to ensure the forges of Hashut remain eternally burning. Their war machines, their slave pits, everything in Chaos Dwarf society revolves around having enough labor and raw materials to make it all work. Sounds like we'll be getting a similar mechanic to Cathay's caravans in the form of convoys that can sell arms and armor to the highest bidder and transport raw materials, gold, and those laborers across vast distances back into the plains of Zarduk. With the order of operations being acquire labor, harvest raw materials, construct nightmarish buildings, and forge hellish weapons, bolster your faction, feel like a pimp, go and brush your shoulders off. I'll make sure to dive more deeply into how exactly those mechanics and others will work in the coming days, but for now, let's move on. There are some very juicy screenshots and moments from the trailer that are very much worth discussing. As expected, the hype train is quite literally a train this time around, and Iron Demon war engines, Skullcrackers, Dreadquake mortars, magma cannons, and Deathstreaker artillery are all going to play an important role. The Dreadquake is the only artillery piece in Warhammer with a chance to rival or surpass Queen Bess, and as with all artillery pieces in their arsenal, you can affix them to war engines to form battle trains. Now, we don't know yet the extent of these trains, whether they'll be single cabooses or full-on behemoths where you can attach 4, 5, 6 units all into one thing, but if it's anything like tabletop, you'll be able to create a conga line of assorted artillery pieces, all with a vicious locomotive out front, either the Skullcracker or the Iron Demon war engine. I also want you to take a look at this absolutely epic screenshot of a Ziggurat temple rising in the background, and Infernal Guard, Infernal Ironsworn, Bull Centaurs, and Great Taurus marching on the path to war. My best guess is that the Boiling Mask boys in the front are regular Infernal Guard, and the Infernal Ironsworn are directly behind them with the big hats and skull masks, but it is very possible those are a regiment of renown instead, and the guys in front are the Ironsworn with no regular Infernal Guard pictured. Because if you look at the trailer, you do see the guys with the Infernal Castellans are not boiling and have crazy hot masks, even though all Infernal Guard and Ironsworn are welded inside. It looks like they might be going for a more ensorcelled and elite look for the Ironsworn, which may indicate the standard Infernal Guard are elsewhere in the trailer, and that the guys in the back are a regiment of renown. Also pictured, of course, are the Bull Centaurs and Tauric heroes, which will be highly mobile, monstrous cavalry, supported by flying bulls of doom, and Danger, the Great Taurus, and Baal Taurus as well. Kadai Fireborn monstrous infantry are shown elsewhere in the trailer, magma monstrosities who will likely function more like demons, with their blazing body and burning bright special rules translating into a form of crumbling as they become unstable. Incredible sneak peek at them wielding dual weapons, and we also have the Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses with their powerful close-range shotguns, big hats, and Iron Demon war engines in support with their twin cannons. On the aerial side, joining the Baal Taurus is the Bizarre Lamassu, a sorceress creature of guile and deceit that can utilize bound spells and channels the legends of ancient Sumeria. It's like a bull-lion-bird hybrid that can cast spells. Really cool looking creature that can also be used as a mount by lords and heroes. Overall, love the aesthetic of this faction and how they've been brought to life here. The models, lords, everything on that front looks absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. And I certainly agree that from a battlefield perspective, they are going to be quite strong. Not only because they have a ton of tools in their kit and have the benefit of dropping with most of their roster, as opposed to base game factions that get padded with additional DLC later, but also because they are inherently an expansion faction, right? And CA tends to err on the side of beastliness when DLC races are in the limelight. They tend to err a little bit more on the side of OP. Don't know if they will be, but it's certainly a possibility on launch that they'll be extremely good. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Only 3 lords. No Shartor the Executioner, no custom-made new Bull Centaur Lord, no Gorth or Rykarth, and in fact, there will be no 4th Lord at all in this pack. It appears Creative Assembly will be taking a new direction with their full-blown race packs, replacing the 4th Legendary Lord with Legendary Heroes instead. I'm not gonna lie, this element of the news today is pretty disappointing. It's possible CA couldn't secure the rights to other characters from James Workshop and Jimmy Space. It's possible They wanted to keep those purely as Age of Sigmar characters for the Chaos Dwarf Battle Tome we know is coming. It's possible they looked at previous DLCs like the Vampire Coast, saw a character like Araness Assault Spite, probably didn't get played all that much and certainly was not implemented as well as she could have been, and said, hey, that part of the budget could better be served on heroes who can be accessed by all 3 lords. And those may truly be reasonable explanations. But we've already had arguably the best DLC in the entire trilogy, the Tomb Kings, with a completed roster and 4 awesome lords on day 1, all with their own unique niche and playstyle and starting units. After this long period of waiting and the content drought we've had, I think it's fair to say most of us want CA to go big or go home with this one, and the expectation set forth in the past has always been 4 lords at this price point. And I think this would hurt a little bit less if the 3rd lord was absolutely unbearably cool, in the way I believe Shartor would have been, offering a truly unique playstyle compared to the other Dawizar lords, a monstrous cavalry type lord who really plays nothing like Drazhoath or Astrogoth would. Or hell, if the legendary hero himself was unbearably cool, someone like Gorich. But we got Zhatan the Black and Gorduz Backstabber, and while both deserve to be here, neither one shatters the needle for me. I'm not really freaking out about either one of their inclusions. Perhaps CA will prove me wrong in the coming days, but I do have some reservations about what Zhatan the Black can bring to the table, especially in comparison to Drazhoath and Astrogoth. And I think Italian Spartacus said it best when we were discussing the lords before this was announced. He said, every faction needs to have their own Aroloth, a steroided generic lord dude who brings that more vanilla experience, which, ironically, Aroloth isn't in the trilogy for the Wood Elves, of course, but you get the picture. If that's one of the 4 lords, and the others are exotic and really fun and unique and versatile and different, great. If it's one of only 3 lords, well, that's less great. And frankly, from a YouTubing perspective, there's simply less content and lords to cover now, and more of us doing the exact same lords in the exact same start positions. I do realize most people are never going to play 4 separate campaigns with 4 separate lords for a single faction. But having that variety is a big core component of what makes Mortal Empires what it is, and having one less lord feels like a step back in some ways. I can't say I love that new direction. The other slightly annoying element of this is the Chaos Siege Giant, which is quite literally the first time Creative Assembly have had a chance to do something truly unique and different for a giant. We had them for the Greenskins, and for Chaos, and for Beastmen, and for Norska, and for the Ogre Kingdoms, and whoever else, and finally, we get one with a legit new model, mutilated and half insane with heavy armor and scaling spikes for climbing, and pulling down walls, and ginormous scything blades, and now is the time where they're just like, let's skip it. Come on, bro. This is probably the one and only time the Chaos Dwarfs are getting content. Let's make it bang as much as possible. Let's get the full roster in. So, those are the big misses for me, but we'll have more confirmation once the entire roster is revealed. Those 2 little elements don't sit great with me. Overall, I'm quite excited with what I've seen in this trailer. There is a lot to look forward to here, and the unit roster itself looks awesome. The lords look fantastic. I mean, they have truly been done justice. But there are parts where I'm a little bit more hesitant about the whole situation, and I think we will be discussing that more in the coming days. So, as I said, lots more to talk about over the next couple weeks, and that's before we even start posting gameplay and guides of our own. So stay tuned. It is a very exciting time. I'm very much looking forward to the Forge of the Chaos Dwarfs, and I'm looking forward to getting back to the grind and making consistent content once again. So hope you guys can join me on that ride, and I'll see you all in the next video. If you do plan on pre-ordering, please do consider going through my affiliate link, and all I can say is, Indie Pride, signing off for now. Have a good one, guys.